Folks, 1 Timothy here in chapter 4, I want to read a verse to you. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Does that sound like a little bit like today? Boy, you better believe it. I've got Dr. Hiltebittle sitting here in the studio. I've got about 4 news items that I'm going to share with you today, and we're going to talk about. And we're also going to talk about a new little book that Dr. Hiltebittle has put out. And you're not going to want to miss the show. Stand by. All right, this is Crossing the Spotlight. Brother Hiltebittle here with me in the studio. I'm Brother Goodwin. And Doc, that's quite a verse that I read.
Yes, it is.
Talking about the latter times, that's pretty similar to the last days.
Yes.
I think it's the same time period. Yeah. Just use different words here.
Right.
And the Spirit, capital S, speaketh expressly.
Yes.
That in the latter time. Now that's, I don't know, just never really jumped out at me like it is now. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly. What's he wanting to tell us? That in the latter times. Yeah. Urgent. In the latter times, the times right before the Lord comes back, people are going to go nuts.
Boy, are they ever.
My goodness, they're going to depart. Some shall depart from the faith.
We've seen that.
Now that could mean one of two things. Of course, a saved person can't depart from being saved, but
No.
he can depart from truth, and that happens all the time.
But this is I think a little broader scope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Men will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils.
Well, I think there's a pretty evil spirit behind all that's going on in our world today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've got some stories that I'm going to read, and we got a little booklet of yours we're going to talk about in just a minute. Great little booklet. Can't wait for the folks to hear about it. And so we're going to get to that in just a minute. First of all, we would like to thank everybody in our viewing audience for supporting us.
Amen.
We try not to say a lot about money, but we're viewer supported. And every 3 months, we have a big television bill that comes due. And we hit it, Doc. We have hit it. The money is here. Of course, by the time this show airs, the bill is already paid. But we have the money to pay the bill for the next 3 quarters, or 3 months, I should say. Yes. And we have you, the viewer, to thank for that. And
thank you very much.
So much for that. And we're actually in the black a little bit. That never happens.
We're starting on the next one.
Right.
Yes.
So we are building on the next quarter. But not only that, we have plans. We want to get on the radio. We want to get on a few other key TV stations. We got other things that we're planning to do. We're going to have a remake of our studio here coming up real soon. And so if you like what you see here, if you like the show, keep helping us out, because it's because of you that we're on. And we have a new donation package for this quarter that we're going to tell you about in just a minute. It has to do with Dr. Hiltebittle's new little booklet that he wrote. But before we get to that, Doc, I just couldn't help. I printed out about 4 stories here from the news.
Worldwide stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I realize this.
Everybody thinks it's all about America, but we're just a little part of what prophecy is about. Yeah.
All right, so this first story kind of is about America, but here's what it says. 1.5, it's actually 1.45, but we'll round it off. 1.5 million students leave public schools for homeschooling and charter schools.
Well, they kicked them out of school. They closed them last year, so what are they going to do?
Yeah. Public school enrollment has plummeted over the past 2 years as parents choose to place their children in charter or private schools or to homeschool them.
Amen.
This is from PJ Media. It says here, Okay, I want to make sure I give who the story's from. PJ Media, I think it is. Public schools lost 1.5 million students, a 3.3% decrease. That don't sound like much, but that's a lot.
That's a lot, and
and each one of them kids is money for that school.
Yes, sir.
And see, it's all comes back to the dollar bill, doesn't it?
It does.
All right, so there's more I could read about that. And by the way, I made my decision about public school
A long time ago.
before I was even married. I got saved, and I got in a good church when I got out of the Navy and heard some preaching about some of these things. I made my decision before I even got to Bible college and met my wife, who's sitting back there behind the cameras and trying to make me look good here. And but I made my decision about our children's schooling before I ever was even married or had any children. And I still believe that. I think now folks are going to have to decide for themselves what they do. But for me in my house, I came out of the public school. I know what happens in the public school. I know what happens on the school buses that take the kids to the public school because I witnessed it. And
well, it's what the reason they shut it down is because of they shut the schools down because of the disease that was supposedly with the pandemic, and parents were at their wits' ends. Very few parents today really are.
Yeah. Now they may
not that they're qualified; they could be qualified. I'm confident that most of them could teach as well as any of what the rest is getting, but they sell themselves short.
But what you keep them from is more important than what you give them.
It could well be,
because there's such a bad influence.
I've always said if you can teach your children proper phonics and how to read, they'll be able to learn anything the rest of their life.
And the whole ACE schooling system, which we're not big fans of it, but it's self. You teach yourself. You go through those paces and you do the test.
But they put a lot of stress on those basics.
Yeah.
And yes, but I read that same article earlier today, and I thought, I'm not surprised. I figured it'd be a bigger number than that.
And I wrote this on the bottom of the page. I got to be careful how I say it, but the crisis going on is not the problem. It revealed an already existing problem.
That's true.
And I would tell these folks who pulled out, there's a better reason to pull out than why they pulled out.
Than just that, yes.
Yeah, and that's what's being taught there. The evolution and just all the crazy stuff.
The best for your
today
children.
In the schools. All right, so let's move on to another one here. We'll save this one for last. Now this is a story out of I believe this is Julian Conradson from September 26th. The article says this: the jab that broke the camel's back. Now this is a story about Israel.
Yep.
This is a story of a protest in Tel Aviv. Thousands protest in Tel Aviv over Israel's vaccine passport that now and this is Israel, requires citizens of Israel to, I wonder if citizens is the right word anymore.
Probably should be the word subject,
yeah,
I think.
The subjects are subjects of the crown, but it requires the citizens to take a booster shot to be considered fully vaccinated.
These are vaccinated people. Now, if I understand, over 90% of the citizens of Israel are vaccinated.
Yeah. Now I've heard several different. No, I heard 87%. It may be 90 now. Yeah. This story seems to say 2/3, but I think the 87 to 90 is probably right.
I'm confident it's up to that, but they got to get a booster shot to go with it.
They got to get a booster shot. I think to protect their people from the
non-vaccinated.
But really, it isn't even just that. The hospitals, they're having an outbreak again, and it's vaccinated people. Now, this is news. I'm not spreading hype here. This is news. Yeah. This is real, and it ought to be on the mainstream news.
Well, it won't be.
He says at the end of last month, Israel health officials announced that any individual who has not received a third shot within 6 months of their second dose would no longer be considered fully vaccinated under the country's vaccine passport system, meaning And he goes on here. By the way, he says there have been rumblings already of a fourth mandatory shot.
You know, I got the feeling this thing's just going to be fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth. It might be the money trail you ought to follow.
Folks, the 18th shot has now come out. So go to your local, oh my goodness. People who do not get the booster will be back at square one, no longer having access to everyday activities, just like those who never took it in the first place.
Wow.
And he says so far 2/3 of all Israelis have played along with the government's restrictions and have been fully vaccinated. I think that number is higher than that, but you know,
Wow.
2/3 would be a lot too. I think there was one more thing I was going to read. Yeah, Israeli citizens have been among the first. Now listen to this. This is worth listening to right here. Nothing else we've said today is worth listening to, but this is worth listening to. Israeli citizens have been among the first to receive, now listen to this word, the rushed vaccine ever since it was made available. Now their government wants to use them as experimental guinea pigs for the even more hastily developed booster shot. Now I'm just reading what the article says here. And by the way, the picture on the front of this article was a rally in Tel Aviv that took place just, it may have been this very day, the 26th of September. There's a whole bunch of people here. Most of their signs are in Hebrew. I can't read them. But there's a great big sign here that's bigger than the others, and it's in English. For some reason. And it has a picture of a rat on it. Let me read you what it says. These are from the Jews over there in Tel Aviv now. From Holocaust survivors, we have become lab rats.
Wow.
And they are. They are the most vaccinated country in the world. They led the way.
Yeah.
And why?
Well, I think because prophecy is going to revolve around Israel, we understand that. And Israel's the one that's going to swallow their false Messiah right off the bat. It's obvious they're setting the stage for it.
Now, here's another story. Democrats go after Christianity and Judaism's holiest sites. A new bill in Congress turns over Jerusalem's Jewish quarter, the Western Wall, and you and I have both been there, and Christian holy sites to Palestinians. This is the Gateway pundit, Jim Hoft, September 26, same day. Listen to this. On September 26, 2021, Alan Dershowitz wrote in the Gatstone Institute, just when, now I'm quoting from Alan Dershowitz, the Jewish famous lawyer there, just when Congress overwhelmingly defeated an effort by 8 radical Democrats and 1 Republican to defund Israel's Iron Dome defense system. In other words, I guess there was enough Democrats and a few Republicans that overturned this thing.
It was overturned overwhelmingly, but to begin with, this is where it was. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Congress overwhelmingly defeated an effort by 8 radical Democrats and 1 Republican.
Yeah.
Who was that Republican?
I don't know.
We need to find out who that guy was.
He probably oughtn't to even want to run next time.
Yeah. So anyway, they wanted to defund the Iron Dome defense system. And now maybe it should be defunded. I want to know why, though, they want to defund it. Now, Israel can probably stand on its own without our dollars, but they won't as long as we keep giving it to them.
But the Iron Dome is more than the dollars. It's the provision of those rockets.
Yeah. And that is an amazing defense
It is an amazing system,
and I read that they actually invented this thing.
Well, I don't know if they invented it. I think they improved upon it.
Yeah, okay. Democrats proposed legislation that is equally dangerous and filled with half-truths, omissions, and outright fabrications. And I have a name for this one, because I looked him up. The article does not name, oh yes it does. Well, it didn't name what state he was from. I looked up and found his state. Congressman Andy Levin from Michigan. Now you might ought to take note. Anybody from Michigan, give this guy a call, send him an email, tell him you don't appreciate what you heard here. He has introduced a bill called the Two-State Solution Act that purports to further the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as he calls it. The bill declares that the West Bank and East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip are occupied territories that must be referred to as such by all American statements.
No way.
So the bill declares that these are occupied territories and need to be stated as such by Americans. Now, this is ridiculous.
Well,
it implies that occupation is illegal and entirely the fault of Israel, of course.
Oh, yeah. Well, these anti-Semites are all over the place in Washington.
Yeah. So this guy, Andy Levin, he's up for election every 2 years. He'll be up for election in 2022. Some of you people from Michigan need to get on board with that and make some noise and get heard about this.
Don't you get a little put out about those terms that are nothing but fake?
There's
no such
lies.
thing as occupied territory.
Yeah.
No way.
That land is Israel's.
It's Israel's.
And they've been awfully good to them Palestinian people.
Well, but most people, and probably a lot of the people that are watching, don't even understand that there is really no such entity as a Palestinian.
That's right.
Those that call themselves Palestinians, they're either Ammonites, Moabites, or they're an Arab.
Yeah.
There wasn't even the name in the region until 135 AD, before the whole area was called Palestine.
Yeah.
So this term Palestinian, it in itself is not a truism.
All right, I got one more story here, Doc, and then we'll get into your new booklet here. I got another story, but I'm not sure I'm going to read it. It's a history thing, but listen to this. Germany's Social Democratic Party narrowly wins against Merkel's party in Germany. So Miss Merkel is Angela Merkel is on her way out. She lost.
Yep.
Now it says here she's going to be there for a short time, but eventually she's going to be removed.
Yep, she's out of the picture.
And Germany's center-left Social Democrats on Sunday narrowly won their. Now that was Sunday, I think September 26th. This happened. This election. They narrowly won an election they have not won since 2005, ending a 16-year conservative-led rule.
And if you call that conservative, I'm telling you, this is woo.
So you got any comments on what that means to the? By the way, the candidate that won is a guy named Olaf Scholz.
Yeah.
Now it's not spelled S-H or S-C-H-U like the Schultz that we're familiar with from Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
This is Olaf Scholz, S-C-H-O-L-Z. And he's 63 years old from Hamburg, and he has won that election.
The next mayor.
Any idea, prophetically speaking, what this could mean?
I think if you take the Battle of Gog-Magog and you're giving Gomer in there, I don't know, some don't believe that it's Germany, but we've seen Germany in the past and their hatred of the Jews, and I wouldn't put it past a repeat again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've had 2 world wars that they instigated.
They instigated both of those, and
not that there's not good people there now.
No,
there certainly are.
Well, I mean,
but wars are started by a few
my family's
people.
a descendant of Germany, and my
that's it. Pull the lever, eject him from the
my great grandfather and
I've got some good
came
friends
over.
that are German. Yeah. That I met a guy on an airplane. We're still friends, and he works over here. He goes back and forth, and
they are, they're genetically. There's each group of people have different aspects of their genetics that are predominant, and they are masters at mechanical engineering and things of that nature. They really are masters at it.
Yeah. Let me just touch on this one thing here real quick. This is from Tara Ross. She's a Facebook person, has a big following. She's a history buff. And she puts out stories every day of what happened on this day.
Okay.
This is something that happened that I didn't know about. And I wished I'd have known about it, because I wrote in my 7 Clocks a Ticking book, I have a chapter called The Ticking Nuclear Clock. Mm-hmm. Wow, this story would have fit in there so perfectly. I'll just give you a couple highlights. We don't have time to read the whole story, but on this day in 1983, a computer glitch nearly begins a nuclear war between the Soviet Union and the United States. By the way, this was September 1983, and September 26. I was in Bible. I started my first year of Bible college right here, not realizing that life almost changed as we
Right
knew
then.
it. I could have been killed.
Yeah.
Nuclear war almost started, and we didn't even know it. And I think it was years later before anybody knew.
Technological glitch.
Yeah. Soviet satellites confused sunlight reflecting from clouds and thought it was an American missile launch. Mm-hmm. And then a few minutes later, a warning came up, flashed a warning on the screen that said, it said start. And in other words, that was a code word to start retaliation. 4 more missiles they thought were fired. So 5 missiles coming towards Russia, they thought. Now this guy had a decision to make. He's in the booth, and this is outside of Moscow. It was his job to relay what had just happened to the authorities, and they would retaliate. He didn't know what to do. He began thinking. He said, something just doesn't seem right. He claimed that the system was brand new that they were using, and he was concerned that it might have not be working properly. He was concerned also that why would they just fire 5 missiles? If they're going to attack Russia,
send 1,000.
you send 1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, because everything you don't blow up is going to send something back at you. And so he waited. Now this was against protocol. He waited. And at the 10 or 11 minute mark, he said, he relayed the message that this was just a malfunction in the system. And then he realized at the 10-minute mark, he said, there's no missiles. Now that tells you something.
That's about how quick it can take.
That's how long it takes to shoot a missile from America, at least back then, 1983. That might be different now. 10 minutes is all it would take to nuke a country. And see, I think he'd already left the country when he did. This was a broadcast he did on the BBC. He shared this story.
He probably didn't do that while he was over there.
I guarantee he didn't share this story while he lived in Russia.
He might be like the story that came out 2 days ago of the 300 Islamic people out of Iraq that went up to Kurdistan and made a thing that Iraq ought to join in with the Abrahamic Accords. Well, today I saw an article where they're looking to arrest them and kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was demoted, by the way. They didn't think of him as a hero in Russia.
Sure.
He saved a possible nuclear war between Russia
but he didn't follow protocol. So, you know, you were in the military just like I was, and so you understand you're supposed to follow protocol. And, yeah.
And I did a Facebook Live about this, and I brought up a movie in the 80s called War Games.
Yes.
And
I think I've heard of it.
almost the identical thing here. And that's why they took the men out of the loop and they put a computer in there. Mm-hmm. And that almost destroyed the country. Yeah,
and now we've got our computers in there, and they're all going to be operated by artificial intelligence. So
yeah, scary. Well, we just got a few minutes left, Doc. We are a viewer.
You need to tell about our package deal.
We're a viewer-supported program, and I think we already thanked everybody, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We met our quota for this quarter. So we're going to work on next quarter, but you have written a booklet. Just came out. You can't buy this anywhere. It's called, let me get over it. It's called The Mark of the Beast, and it's Dr. Hiltebiller wrote it. I'm sure he used a lot of stuff he learned from me in this book, but I'm just kidding. And The Mark of the Beast. Now, here's what it says on here. What is it? Who administrates it? Who's involved in it? And when will it come into force? That's that's just some of what the little booklet. About 18 pages, and great little book. We did a little YouTube program about this that folks can watch if you're on YouTube. And what we're going to do this, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. But what we're going to do for this next quarter, our package for a donation package, if you'd like to get something for your donation, $50 or more, we're going to give you Dr. Hiltebitter's brand new book about the Mark of the Beast, and we're going to give you a brand new DVD from Michael Samuel Smith, and it's been out a couple years, but I mean it's sealed in plastic. I've got several of these. Joseph in Egypt, we're going to give you that, and when these run out, because I don't have too many of them, we're going to switch and give you Crossing Jordan, unless you specify which one you want. So there's the package deal. We're going to give you a DVD and Dr. Hilt's new little booklet here on the Mark of the Beast. And for your donation, you can go to the website and do that. And it'll be right there on the front page. You can click on it, buy it right there, or you can call the number and order it that way. And we'd love to help you with that. So, Doc, in the few minutes we got left, let's talk about some of the things in here. I think it's great. I think it's set up really good, real simple, easy. Who's behind the mark system? That's
right.
Point number one in here. So who is behind it?
Well, number one, it's the Antichrist spirit, but the individual that really enforces it and puts it together, orchestrates it, is a false prophet.
A religious guy.
A religious guy.
Isn't that true today? Isn't religion causing more problems?
Well,
false religion?
Historically, almost every war that's ever been fought is something to do with religion.
Now, when I turn the page here, I like how you set this up. On the left page, the power of the Antichrist, beast number one. Mm-hmm. And on the other page, staring right at me, is the power given the false prophet, beast number two.
Yes.
A lot of people get confused about this. They talk about the beast, and they think, well, the beast is the Antichrist. Mm-hmm. Yes, but there's two beasts. Right. There's the one from the sea and the one from the land. Mm-hmm. One is the religious guy. One is the political guy. Yes. I love how you put them both in the. When the book is open, they're both right there. Helps the reader understand this.
The first beast, of course, we could probably better understand. The beast is actually talking about, in reference to Daniel's prophecy, the final or the eighth kingdom of the Gentile rule, but there's an individual that's heading that up, and so that individual is the Antichrist.
And it says here, who are they? In other words, who is the false prophet? Who is the Antichrist? And I'm not sure you name names, but you explain what they are, and the religious guy and the political guy.
I have my ideas, but who knows? By that time, the one I think of might not be in existence.
Might be dead.
It might be somebody else.
And I have
but they have their character traits that could fit into it.
What is this system? You explain what the mark of the beast system is and how it keeps,
it's a system.
Keeps you, it allows you to buy and sell within the marketplace.
And we're watching the protocols. We're watching the programming of the masses right now through the things that are taking place on Earth. The entire world's falling in.
You talk about, it could be a chip, a tattoo, or both. That's interesting. But I like what you said here, a worship system.
Yes.
Now that makes you think it's God's people, but it's not that kind of worship, is it?
It's a false worship.
And the Antichrist.
Everybody is religious, even the atheist. Yeah. He's religious in his atheism. But yes.
Well, Doc, we'll next show we do, we'll talk a little bit more about this booklet, but we want the folks to get it, and we're out of time. And I hope you know Jesus as your Savior. I hope you've been born again. If not, we'd love to help you with that.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. You better get saved. Time is running out. You better get to know God. And so I hope you've enjoyed the program today. Share it with your friends and loved ones. And we'll see you next time. But until then, keep your eyes on them skies.